It's a long time ago. So we met in Hamburg.
We met in Hamburg.
Because I was at art school, and Birgit was more involved with music. You were part of the music improvisation scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when we finally played together, that was a bit later. That's 15 years ago.
Maybe, I would say mid-90s.
Yeah,
something like that.
Mid-90s.
It's longer
we met in
ago
Hamburg,
than 15 years.
Although we were slightly in different scenes at that time, we started just meeting and improvising.
But we started working regularly together much later.
Yeah.
Actually, when Ute moved to Berlin, I think some years later, we started working together.
Yeah, so I guess it's important. I didn't study music, but I went to art school. Although, as a child, I played instruments and in orchestras, and I was always busy playing music, different classical, but also in groups, in bands. And but then I went to art school because in Germany it was very difficult to study the kind of music I wanted to study. I wanted to, when I was a teenager, I've seen Laurie Anderson performing with the tape bow violin and these pieces with tape, violin, projection, and she used her voice. So her instrument became this kind of performative object. And I was really blown away as a teenager. And I wanted to study music, but not classical music, but more really experimental music. And that was not possible in Germany in the 80s. It was very academic. So I kind of ended up at art school. And in the Hamburg art school was very experimental. We did sound installations and performance art and worked with video. And also once a week we would listen to music together, to John Cage. And also actually John Cage came to the art school, and a lot of musicians from Japan, from the US, whoever was in town in Hamburg would drop in that class and give a workshop. And so I really got in touch with music, and we even organized a music festival at art school. And then it got to that point that I wanted to, I started to work with my voice there and work on instruments for my voice. And I played flute, for the flute also, kind of installation pieces. And then I wanted to get even more into music. And I got a grant to go to the US, and there I was at the music department actually. And then with the time, it turned more and more into music. I shifted from the art scene to the music scene. Improvisation was always a very big part, how I develop pieces also. Because I really explore the material. Also with my solo pieces, there's a long period of research. Like I have a solo set with the bird whistles and voice. And I've worked with speaker objects also, like that I put on my body and they vibrate with my voice. So every time I work on a specific solo project, there's a lot of research really into the material. It's not that I sit down, write a concept and write notes, but I really work with the sound of the objects or with my voice also. I do a lot of research, really practical hands-on research. So then with the time, I do this research involving improvisation, and when I do solo, I work on structures also for the pieces.
Yeah, what we have in common is that I also come from the visual arts. I studied also visual arts, and I played guitar as a child. I started 3 times and stopped 3 times because it wasn't my instrument. And I switched later to the trumpet, which I loved from the beginning, and it was clear that it's my instrument, but it was for a long time, I was kind of fighting with it. I was never content, and I thought, I have to stop it because I don't know how to develop it in the way I like. And this went on for maybe 10 years before I came to the point that I decided I just want to go on with it, and it wasn't a question anymore to do that. And when I started playing music, I played free jazz. There was a quite big scene for it in Hamburg, and many musicians visiting from the US, and we had a lot of sessions with them. We were kind of playing together day and night. We lived together, we played together, and yeah, was everything together. But after a while, I noticed that I couldn't develop an aspect of my playing in this free jazz context. Like, I was very interested in sound research, looking for new sounding possibilities of the trumpet. And this was quite difficult in the free jazz context because it was so dense and loud, and all these so-called extended techniques on the trumpet, they are mostly more quiet. And so I was looking for other contexts to play with. And first I got interested in the British improvising scene. I went often to London and played together with the musicians there. And now I prefer more to work in working groups, like the duo with Ute or other collaborations which exist for a long time. And recently I also do a lot of solo work, more conceptual things. I started working with the radio. This was, I think, mid of the 90s. No, it was 2008 I started with that, where I used a speaker in the trumpet mute. So the trumpet functions as receiver and sender at the same time. Mainly because there's not so much going on in Hamburg, and for me it was always important to bring people there, invite musicians there, and have increase the scene there. I was organizing a festival with the name Real-Time Music Meeting, like Tempo Reale, from, when was it? Beginning of the 90s to 2002. And now I'm also in an association with, it's called VMH, Verband für aktuelle Musik Hamburg. And it combines new music and improvised music, electronic music, and sound installation.
I mean, we don't talk at all about the structure. We never talk about it, really. We don't sit down and talk about how to structure this evening. Or
sometimes we talk after concerts. We talk about it, what we liked and
that's
what
true, yeah.
maybe not so much.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought about it because it's so casual.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a very short exchange. It's not like a big meeting we have, It's just we just talk immediately after the concert. I know there is structure and there is it's probably quite structured, but it's not that we. It's basically through listening.
Yes,
it happens through very close listening and being interested in the same attitude, or we found a common attitude with each other, because we play for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think.
And I would say that we are both interested in placing or how to place the sounds. And for me, it's important that I don't repeat the same structure all the time. So everybody has a kind of automatic reaction, and I think about it and try to avoid this. So if I realize that I tend to repeat this kind of structure all the time, so I try to not to do it, do something else instead.
Yeah, I would say it's maybe a similar thing. What I like, it's kind of tight, the way it sounds, but I really like to take risks also. Suddenly do a totally weird, something unexpected for me, or this openness, having this openness and not sticking to the safe place. That's maybe this similar to in bit other words. That it's also about taking risks. Like in this little last bit, I had this bird whistle. Took this bird whistle. I knew it's a bit broken and it won't do what it usually does. And I thought I just try what comes out and do some deal with this, you know.
For me, it's also very interesting the relation between sound and silence, and I think we are both interested in it, and that's for me a very interesting aspect how it goes together, the sound how to place silence. The sounds and also the silences.
And for me also the different durations.
Yes,
like sometimes. Like extending a note, because I think it's both instrument, like with breath, so you can really stretch it. Like sometimes I like to do a sound as long as possible and just stay on the same also and play with this, and then changes, like play with the duration of sounds or repetitions also.
You ask if we try to avoid something. I would say that for me, I would try to avoid this kind of mimicry. So I think we are playing sometimes very close together, but it's never this imitating. This is what I try to avoid.
Yeah, imitation.
The duo, it changes all the time.
Yeah, it does change all the time. Yeah, that is really fun. That's really the fun thing.
Yeah,
because it's totally different also from the CD. We record it now.
Yeah. And also, it's often there are surprising moments when we play together. Or also, it happens that I play sounds I never played in that way before.
Yeah.
Maybe we can first say what we are doing with the duo.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We are planning, or our next projects are the Festival Konfrontationen in Nickelsdorf, Austria, where we play not in a duo, but it's Radio Tweets. The title of our duo is Radio Tweets, featuring Richard Scott, electronic musician. We play a trio. And then we are going on tour to Mexico in fall.
One thing is that I'm working on a new solo piece now, which is rather complex, which will involve speaker objects to put on my body that will, it's like speakers with metal and frame drums also that vibrate with my singing. So I sing through the speaker and then that thing starts to make sounds. So I'm working on these objects. And this piece will also be with field recordings. Because last year in Mexico I did a solo piece in the garden of the National Sound Archives. It's the Fonoteca Nacional. They have an 8-channel sound system in the trees of the garden. And I worked there the first time. It was a long time on my mind with field recordings from the archives of insects, animals, and whistles, and made a sound installation in the garden with solo voice. So some of this experience I want to take in my new project and work with the Animal Archive in Berlin and work on these speaker objects for voice. And then I have a collaboration with a light artist, Michael Vorfeld. We did my last show, Voice Extensions, which was about extending the voice with various instruments and electronics and lights also. And we have a duo with voice and lights. And his lights make sounds also. So you have the sounding light and the voice. And then I are part of a collective Les Femmes Savantes in Berlin. We are 4 artists, and we do also tours and projects and different other groups also.
I just started a new project with 2 other trumpet players, Liz Olby and Sabine Erklens. It's the title is Treetop of the trio, and we are planning to do a project about space. I can never pronounce it. Spatialization. Yeah, how to project our sounds in the room and how to work with the space. I have a project with 3 musicians in Hamburg. It's called Stark Bewölkt. We also organize the concert series, but we also play together, and we are planning a project where a professor from the university, she does a sound analysis. It's called a kind of visual sound analysis about our instrumentation. And I continued the project about the bugle calls. So I collected the daily sequence of bugle calls, which are called during a military day in the US Army, and I deconstruct all these bugle calls into. It's about measurements, and at the end it turns out like very abstract pieces. Yeah, and I have some other ongoing projects, like a duo with a spinet player, also plays electronics from Basel, and another trumpet duo. I like playing with other trumpet players, with Leonard Kaplan from Buenos Aires. Yes, I would say that's the most important projects.